Heroes of Estonia, public domain. The Adventures of the Son of Kalev, the Hero of Estonia. Canto 1. The Marriages of Salme and Linda. In ancient days, the race of Tara dwelt here, and there in the land, and took to themselves wives of the daughters of men. In the far north, near the sacred oak, such a household existed. The sacred oak forest of Tara, such a household existed. And from thence 3 sons went forth into the world to seek their fortune. One son traveled to Russia, where he became a great merchant. Another journeyed to Lapland and became a warrior, while the third, the famous Kalev, the father of heroes, was born to Estonia on the back of an eagle. The eagle flew with him to the south, across the Gulf of Finland, and then eastward across Léamh and Viru, until by the wise ordering of the Jumala, the eagle finally descended with him on the rocky shores of Viru, where he founded a kingdom. In the province of Léamh, a young widow lived quietly by herself. One Sunday, she followed the footprints of her cattle. And what did she find on her way? On the path, she found a hen. She found a grouse's egg in the footprints of the cattle. And she found a young crow near the village. She carried them all home with her to comfort her loneliness. And she made a nest for the hen and the egg in a basket lined with wool. But she threw the young crow into a corner behind the boxes. The hen soon began to grow, and her head reached the lid of the basket, while she sat on the egg. She grew taller for 3 months, and for several days of the 4th month. The widow went into the storehouse to look at her foster children. And what did she behold on raising the lid of the basket? The hen had grown into the fair maiden Salme. The egg had given birth to a second maiden, Linda, while the poor crow had become an orphan girl, a maid of all work, to carry wood to the stove, and to bend under the weight of water pails from the well. Salme was besieged by suitors. 5 and 6 brought her offerings of corn brandy. 7 sent her offers of marriage, and 8 sent trustworthy messengers to bring them news of her. The fame of her beauty spread far and wide, and at length not merely mortal lovers, but even the moon, the sun, and the eldest son of the pole star sought her hand in marriage. The moon drove up in a grand chariot drawn by 50 horses and attended by a train of 60 grooms. He was a pale, slender youth, and found no favor in the eyes of Salme, cried out from the storehouse, "Him I will not have for husband." and the night illumer love not. Far too varied are his duties, and his work is much too heavy. Sometimes he must shine in heaven, ere the day or late in the evening. Sometimes when the sun is rising, sometimes he must toil at morning, ere the day has fully broken. Sometimes watches in the daytime, lingering in the sky till midday. When the moon heard her, he grew paler and returned home sorrowful. And now the sun himself appeared, a young man with fiery eyes, and he drove up with similar state to the moon. But Salme declared that she liked him even less than the moon, for he was much too fickle. Sometimes during the finest summer weather, he would send rain in the midst of the hay harvest. Or if the time had come for sowing oats, he would parch the land with drought. Or if the time for sowing is past, he dries up the barley in the ground, beats down the flax, and presses down the peas in the furrows. He won't let the buckwheat grow or the lentils in their pods, and when the rye is white for harvest, he either glows fiercely and drives away the clouds, or sends a pouring rain. The sun was deeply offended. His eyes glowed with anger, and he departed in a rage. At last the youth of the stars made his appearance, driving with a similar cortege to those who had preceded him. As soon as Salme heard of his arrival, she cried out that his horse was to be led into the stable and tended with the utmost care. The horse must have the best provender, and must be given fine linen to rest on, and be covered with silken cloths. His head was to rest on satin, and his hooves on soft hay. And after this she declared to his master, "Him I will accept as lover. Give the star my hand in marriage, and will prove his faithful consort. Gently shine his eyes of starlight, and his temper alters nothing. Never can he thwart the sowing, never will destroy the harvest." Having thus accepted her suitor and provided for the comfort of his horse, Salme ordered the bridegroom to be ushered into the hall, where the broad table was washed clean and covered with a new tablecloth. The star was to be seated with his back to the wall and his feet comfortably propped up on the bench, while he was to be feasted on the best meat and fish, and offered a wedding cake and honey, besides beer and sweet mead. The widow invited the star to take his place at the table and pressed him to eat and drink, but he was greatly excited, and his weapons, ornaments, and heavy spurs jingled and clanked as he stamped on the floor, and declared that he would eat nothing till Salme herself appeared before him. But Salme asked him to wait a while. She adorned herself, and asked her sister Linda to fetch her woolen dress and her silken shift with gold embroidered sleeves, her stockings with the pretty garters, and the brightly colored and gold-worked kerchiefs of silk and linen. Meanwhile, the widow again invited the star to eat and drink, or, if he were tired, to sleep. But he declared, as before, that he would neither eat nor drink till he had seen Salme, and that the stars never closed their eyes in sleep. At last Salme herself appeared in the hall, but the meadow queen and the wood nymphs had so adorned her that her foster mom did not know her again, and asked in astonishment, "Is it the moon, or the sun, or one of the young daughters of the sunset?" Guests gathered to the wedding from far and near, and even the oaks and alders came, roots, branches, and all. After this, they danced the cross dance, waltzed the waltzes of Estonia, and they danced the Arju dances, and the dances of the Westland, and they danced upon the gravel, and they trampled all the greensward, starry youth and maiden Salme. Thus their nuptials held in rapture. In the midst of these joyous festivities, the moon and then the sun returned in greater state than before to seek the hand of Linda, who was resting on a couch in the bathroom. But she also refused them both, almost in the same terms as her sister had done, and they retired sorrowfully. A third suitor, the Lord of the Waters, now appeared. But Linda replied that the roaring of the waves was terrible, and the depth of the sea was awful, that the brooks only gave a scanty supply of water, and the river floods were devastating. He was followed by the wind, who rode the horse of the tempest, and like all the other suitors was attended by a cavalcade of 50 horses and 60 grooms. And he too asked the hand of Linda. But she replied that a delicate girl could never take pleasure in the howling of the wind and the raging of the tempest. The wind whistled out of the house, but his trouble did not weigh on his heart very long. Another suitor for the hand of Linda now appeared, in the person of the Prince of Kungla. All the guests and Linda's own sisters approved of this suitor. But Linda declared that she could not think of accepting him, for the king, his father, had wicked daughters who would treat a stranger unkindly. A sixth suitor now appeared in the person of the young and handsome giant Kalev. All the wedding guests grumbled, and even the widow was opposed to the match. But he pleased Linda, and she accepted him at once. The widow then invited him to enter and partake of the good cheer, but he trembled with eagerness, so that his sword in its sheath, and his chains and spurs, and even the money in his purse jingled as he answered that he would neither eat nor drink till Linda appeared before him. Linda begged for a little delay to adorn herself, but Kalev still refused to eat or drink. And then she called her slave sister to help her, while the widow continued her ineffectual invitations to Kalev to feast and enjoy himself. At last Linda appeared in the hall, where she excited as much admiration as her sister, and her wedding was celebrated with still greater festivities than Salme's, the guests dancing the local dances of every province of Estonia. But now the youth of the stars could delay no longer, and Salme took an affecting farewell of her foster mother and all her kith and kin, declaring that she would now be hidden behind the clouds, or wandering through the heavens, transformed into a star. Then she mounted her sledge and again bade her foster mother a last and eternal farewell. Linda and her slave sister called after her to ask whither she was going. But there came no answer save the sighing of the wind and tears of joy and regret in the rain and the dew, nor did they ever receive tidings of Salme more. After Salme's departure, the wedding festival of Linda was kept up for some time, And when Kalev finally drove off with her in her sledge, she bade her farewell. She bade farewell to her foster mother, but Kalev reminded her that she had forgotten the moon before the house, who was her father, the sun before the storehouse, who was her old uncle, and the birch tree before the window, who was her brother, besides her cousins in the wood. They gazed after her sorrowfully, but she was happy with Kalev, and heeded them not. Kalev and Linda drove on in their sledge day and night across the snowfields, and through the pine forest till they reached their home.